Charles Whitmore pushed open the door to the staff quarters without thinking, his mind still tangled in the conference call he'd just ended. He needed to ask Gloria about Nora's medication schedule before his evening meetings began. The door swung wide, and he froze. Gloria stood beside the bed in a white camisole and dark slacks, her work blouse draped over her arm. Her eyes went wide with shock, her free hand instinctively moving to cover herself even though she was perfectly decent. "Oh God, I'm so sorry," Charles stammered, averting his gaze immediately. His face burned with embarrassment as he stepped backward into the hallway. "I should have knocked. I wasn't thinking. I just needed to ask about." "It's fine, Mr. Whitmore. Just give me one moment." Gloria's voice remained remarkably steady despite the obvious tension crackling between them. Charles stood in the corridor, staring at the opposite wall, mentally berating himself for such a careless invasion of privacy. But something nagged at the edges of his consciousness, something he'd glimpsed in that split second before he'd looked away. A scar on Gloria's left shoulder. A distinctive crescent-shaped mark. His blood ran cold. The door opened again, and Gloria appeared fully dressed in a clean blouse, her expression composed but guarded. "What did you need to ask me, Mr. Whitmore?" Charles forced himself to focus, pushing away the disturbing observation. "Nora's medication. The neurologist changed her dosage. I wanted to make sure you had the updated schedule. I received the email from Dr. Chen this morning. Everything's noted in her care log." Gloria's tone was professional, but something flickered in her eyes. Discomfort? Or was it guilt? "Good. Excellent." Charles nodded stiffly. "Again, I apologize for the intrusion. It won't happen again. I understand, Mr. Whitmore. You have a lot on your mind." She offered a small, gracious smile that should have put him at ease but somehow did the opposite. Charles retreated to his study, but he couldn't concentrate on work. That scar. He'd only seen one like it once before, and it had been on Evelyn's shoulder. His late wife had gotten it as a child in a horseback riding accident, or so she'd told him. The shape was unusual, distinctive. What were the odds that his daughter's nanny would have an identical mark in the exact same location? Coincidence? It had to be a coincidence. But Charles Whitmore hadn't built a tech empire by ignoring patterns and anomalies. He'd built it by questioning everything, by digging until he found the truth beneath the surface. He pulled up Gloria's background check on his computer, reading through it again with fresh eyes. Everything seemed legitimate. Born in Atlanta, raised by a single mother who'd passed away 3 years ago, degree in early childhood development from Georgia State University, 5 years of experience with special needs children. Yet something felt off. Over the following days, Charles found himself watching Gloria with new intensity. He noticed things he'd overlooked before. The way she hummed while cooking breakfast for Nora, the same melody Evelyn used to sing. The particular way she arranged flowers in the vase on the dining table, always placing white roses in the center just as Evelyn had done. The books she read to Nora at bedtime, many of them Evelyn's childhood favorites from the library upstairs. Margaret noticed his preoccupation. The housekeeper cornered him one morning in the kitchen, her voice low and urgent. "Mr. Whitmore, I need to speak with you about Miss Daniels." "What about her?" Charles poured himself coffee, trying to appear disinterested. "There's something not right about that woman. I found her in Mrs. Whitmore's old study yesterday, looking through photo albums. When I asked what she was doing, she claimed Nora had led her there, but the child was in the garden with the gardener at the time." Charles's grip tightened on his coffee mug. Perhaps she was mistaken about where Nora was. Perhaps. Or perhaps she's snooping where she doesn't belong. Margaret crossed her arms. "I've worked for this family for 15 years, Mr. Whitmore. I know when something's wrong. That woman is hiding something. Thank you for your concern, Margaret. I'll handle it." Charles dismissed her, but the seed of suspicion she'd planted took root and grew. That evening, Charles decided to confront the situation directly. He found Gloria in the music room, sitting at the grand piano with Nora curled up beside her on the bench. Gloria's fingers moved gracefully across the keys, playing Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. Evelyn's favorite piece. The music stopped when Charles entered. Nora's head turned toward him, and for a fleeting moment, something like recognition crossed her small face before the familiar blankness returned. "That's a beautiful piece," Charles said carefully. "My wife used to play it." Gloria's hands retreated to her lap. "Did she?" "I didn't know. It's one of my favorites." "Is it?" "Interesting coincidence." Charles moved closer, studying Gloria's face for any tell, any crack in her composure. "You seem to have many things in common with my late wife. The music. The books you read to Nora. Even the way you arrange flowers." Gloria stood slowly, her expression guarded. "I'm not sure what you're implying, Mr. Whitmore." "I'm not implying anything. I'm making an observation." He stepped closer still, lowering his voice so Nora wouldn't hear. "Tell me something, Gloria. That scar on your shoulder, how did you get it?" The color drained from Gloria's face. Her hand unconsciously moved to her left shoulder, and in that gesture, Charles saw confirmation of his suspicions. It was a childhood accident." "Why are you asking me this?" "Because my wife had the exact same scar in the exact same place. Now, I'm willing to accept one or two coincidences, but this is becoming a pattern I can't ignore." Charles's voice hardened. "Who are you really? Why are you here?" Gloria's eyes glistened with unshed tears. She glanced at Nora, who was watching them both with unusual intensity, then back at Charles. "Can we discuss this privately? Not in front of your daughter. Nora, sweetheart, why don't you go find Margaret and ask her for some cookies?" Charles said gently, but his eyes never left Gloria's face. For the first time in 18 months, Nora responded to a request. She slid off the piano bench and walked out of the room without protest, as if sensing the gravity of the moment. Once they were alone, Charles crossed his arms and waited. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Gloria took a shaky breath. "My name is Gloria Daniels, and everything in my background check is true. But it's not the whole truth." She sank back onto the piano bench, her shoulders sagging. "I came here because of Evelyn. Because I needed to understand who she was, what her life was like, why she never." "Never what?" Charles demanded. "Why she never came looking for me." Gloria's voice cracked. "Evelyn Whitmore was my half-sister, Mr. Whitmore. We shared the same mother." The room tilted. Charles gripped the edge of the piano to steady himself. "That's impossible. Evelyn's mother died when she was young. She had no siblings. That's what she believed. That's what she was told." Gloria wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. "Our mother, Catherine Reynolds, gave birth to me when she was 16. Her parents forced her to give me up for adoption. 8 years later, after she married Evelyn's father, she had another daughter. But she never told anyone about me. She never told Evelyn." Charles felt as if he'd been punched in the chest. "How do you know all this?" "DNA test. After my adoptive mother died, I started searching for my biological family. I found records, did the test, and discovered I had a half-sister named Evelyn Whitmore." Gloria's voice broke completely. "But by the time I found out, she was already gone. Dead in that fire. I never got to meet her, never got to know her, never got to tell her she had a sister who would have loved her." "So you decided to deceive your way into my home? To spy on us?" Anger surged through Charles's veins, hot and righteous. "No. I just wanted to understand her. To see the life she lived, the daughter she left behind. I thought maybe if I could help Nora, I could somehow make up for not being there when Evelyn needed family." Gloria stood, facing him directly. "I know it was wrong. I know I should have told you from the beginning. But would you have hired me if I had? Would you have let me anywhere near your daughter? Charles wanted to rage at her, to throw her out immediately. But beneath the anger, another emotion stirred, something that felt dangerously like understanding. Because hadn't he done the same thing after Evelyn's death? Hadn't he buried himself in work and secrets, avoiding the truth because facing it was too painful? The scar, he said finally. That's how you knew you were related. Gloria nodded. Catherine had the same one. It's genetic, a birthmark that looks like a scar. When I saw pictures of Evelyn online after I discovered her identity, I recognized it immediately. Charles moved to the window, staring out at the manicured gardens where Nora often played alone. You've been here 6 weeks. In that time, my daughter has made more progress than she did in the entire year before you arrived. She smiles now. Sometimes she almost laughs. She actually left the room when I asked her to just now. That's the first time she's responded to a direct request since the fire. She's an extraordinary child, Gloria said softly. She reminds me so much of Evelyn, even though I never met her. It's like I can see my sister in Nora's eyes, in her gestures. Taking care of her feels like taking care of the family I never got to have. You lied to me. Charles turned back to face her, his expression hard. You manipulated your way into my home under false pretenses. You invaded our privacy and exploited my daughter's trauma for your own emotional needs. You're right. Everything you're saying is right. Gloria's tears flowed freely now. I'll pack my things and be gone within the hour. I'm sorry, Mr. Whitmore. I'm so deeply sorry. She started toward the door, but Charles's voice stopped her. Wait. Gloria froze. I need time to think about this. About what it means. About whether I can trust you. Charles ran a hand through his hair, exhaustion suddenly overwhelming him. But Nora, she needs you. I can't deny that. Whatever your reasons for coming here, you've helped her in ways no one else could. What are you saying? I'm saying don't pack your things. Not yet. Charles met her eyes. But no more secrets, Gloria. If there's anything else you're hiding, tell me now. Gloria hesitated, and in that hesitation, Charles saw there was more. What is it? His voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. The fire that killed Evelyn. I don't think it was an accident. The world stopped spinning. Charles felt his heart literally skip a beat. What did you say? When I was researching Evelyn, trying to learn everything I could about her, I found some things. Articles she'd written, posts on private forums, encrypted emails she'd sent to journalists. Gloria's words came faster now, tumbling over each other. She was investigating something at your company, Mr. Whitmore. Something involving falsified data in your AI defense contracts. She'd found evidence of corruption, of someone deliberately manipulating test results to secure government funding. Charles's mind reeled. Evelyn had never mentioned anything like this to him. But then again, they'd been distant in the months before her death. He'd been consumed with a major acquisition, working 18-hour days. He'd barely seen her. That's insane. Why wouldn't she have told me? Because she thought you might be involved. Gloria's voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry, but that's what her email suggested. She didn't know who to trust. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. His own wife had suspected him of corporate corruption. Had investigated him in secret. The woman he'd loved, the mother of his child. Get out. The words emerged as a growl. Mr. Whitmore. Get out of this room. Now. Before I say something we'll both regret. Gloria fled, and Charles was left alone with the grand piano and the ghost of his wife's favorite melody haunting the air. He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat in his office, pulling up every file, every email, every document from the period before Evelyn's death. The fire had been ruled an accident, faulty wiring in her art studio. But what if it wasn't? What if someone had wanted to silence her? As dawn broke over Los Angeles, Charles found what he was looking for. Buried in archived emails was a thread between Evelyn and a journalist named Marcus Chen, discussing Project Sentinel, one of Whitmore Technology's largest defense contracts. Evelyn had sent Chen documents showing discrepancies in the RA's performance metrics. The official report showed 97% accuracy. The real data showed 63%. Someone had falsified the results. Someone in his company had committed fraud that could have gotten soldiers killed if the AI had been deployed. And Evelyn had discovered it. Charles pulled up the personnel files for everyone with access to Project Sentinel. 12 names. He cross-referenced them with financial records, looking for unusual transactions around the time of Evelyn's death. There. David Kensington, his chief technology officer. A series of offshore transfers totaling $4 million, made 3 days after the fire. Charles's hand shook as he reached for his phone, but he stopped himself. If Kensington had killed Evelyn, and that was still a massive if, confronting him directly could be dangerous. He needed proof. He needed help. He needed Gloria. He found her in Nora's room, sitting beside his sleeping daughter's bed. Gloria had been crying, her eyes were red and puffy. She looked up when he entered, fear and sadness warring on her face. "I'm not leaving until you fire me officially," she said quietly. Nora shouldn't wake up to find another person she cares about has disappeared without explanation. She's had enough of that. Charles sat down heavily in the other chair. "I spent the night investigating what you told me. You were right. Evelyn was onto something. Someone in my company committed fraud, and I think they killed her to cover it up." Gloria's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God. I need your help. I need to know everything Evelyn found, everything she told that journalist. Can you get me access to whatever research you did?" "Of course. All of it. Everything I have." Gloria leaned forward urgently. "But Mr. Whitmore, if someone killed Evelyn, they might come after you too. Or after Nora if they think Evelyn told you anything." The thought made Charles's blood run cold. He looked at his sleeping daughter, so small and vulnerable. He'd failed to protect Evelyn. He couldn't fail Nora too. "We need to be smart about this. Strategic." Charles stood, pacing the room. "I'll hire a private investigator, someone outside my company. We'll gather evidence quietly. And in the meantime, you stay close to Nora. Don't let her out of your sight. You trust me?" Gloria's voice was small, disbelieving. Charles met her eyes. "You came here looking for your sister. Instead, you've helped me find the truth about how she died. That's not nothing. And despite everything, I believe you care about Nora genuinely. So yes, for now, I trust you. Don't make me regret it." Over the following 2 weeks, Charles and Gloria worked together to unravel the conspiracy that had ended Evelyn's life. The private investigator, a former FBI agent named Sarah Reeves, confirmed their suspicions. David Kensington had falsified the Project Sentinel data at the behest of General Motors Defense, which had paid him handsomely to ensure Whitmore Technologies won the contract. When Evelyn discovered the fraud, Kensington had hired someone to sabotage her studio's electrical system, making her death look accidental. The evidence was damning. But gathering it meant late nights in Charles's study, combing through documents with Gloria by his side. It meant hushed conversations over coffee at 3 in the morning, sharing stories about Evelyn that made them both laugh and cry. It meant discovering that this woman who'd deceived her way into his life understood his grief in ways no one else could, because she was grieving the same person. She loved horses, Gloria said one night, looking at a photo of Evelyn at age 12, sitting on a Palomino mare. "I wonder if I would have loved them too if I'd grown up with her." "She would have adored having a sister," Charles said softly. "She was so lonely as a child. Her father was always working, her mother died young. She used to tell me she wished she had siblings. She had me. She just never knew it." Gloria's voice broke. "I wish I could have told her. I wish I could have been there for her." Charles found his hand covering hers on the desk. "You're here for her daughter now. That would have mattered to her. It matters to me. Their eyes met, and something shifted in the air between them. Something that had been building since that awkward encounter in her room, something that scared Charles because it felt too much like hope, like possibility, like life after loss. But before he could analyze it further, his phone buzzed. Sarah Reeves. She'd found a witness, a former employee of Kensington's contractor. They had testimony that would stand up in court. It was time to act. The press conference made international headlines. Charles Whitmore, one of the tech industry's most powerful figures, exposing corruption in his own company. David Kensington was arrested at his home, along with 3 executives at General Motors Defense. The FBI launched an investigation. Project Sentinel was suspended pending review. And Charles finally told the world that his wife hadn't died in an accident. She'd been murdered for discovering the truth. Standing beside him at the press conference was Gloria, identified not as Nora's nanny but as Evelyn's half-sister and a key figure in uncovering the conspiracy. The media exploded with the story, the secret sister, the murdered whistleblower, the billionaire's quest for justice. Through it all, Charles felt something fundamental shift inside him. The walls he'd built around his heart after Evelyn's death began to crumble. He'd spent 18 months in a prison of grief and control, trying to manage his pain by managing everything else. But Gloria had crashed through those defenses, bringing chaos and truth and life. 3 months after the arrests, Charles found Gloria in the mansion's garden, watching Nora play on the swing set. His daughter was laughing, actually laughing, a sound Charles had thought he'd never hear again. She spoke this morning, Gloria said as he approached. Just 2 words. More pancakes. But it was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. You did that. You brought her back. Charles stood beside Gloria, close enough to feel her warmth. We did that. You and me together. Gloria turned to face him, her brown eyes reflecting the afternoon sunlight. I've been thinking about leaving, you know. Now that everything's resolved. Now that justice has been served. Charles's heart clenched painfully. Do you want to leave? No. But I don't know if staying is appropriate. I'm not really the nanny anymore. I'm Nora's aunt. I'm the woman who helped you expose corruption in your company. She trailed off, uncertainty clouding her features. You're the person who saved my daughter. Who saved me? Charles took her hand, the gesture feeling both terrifying and inevitable. I don't know what we are exactly. I don't know what this is between us. It's complicated and messy and probably ill-advised. But I know I don't want you to leave. Your wife was my sister. Gloria's voice wavered. Is this wrong? Is this a betrayal? Evelyn would want Nora to be happy. She'd want us both to be happy. Charles squeezed her hand gently. I've spent 18 months living in the past, trying to freeze time because moving forward felt like leaving Evelyn behind. But I think she'd want us to live. Really live. Don't you? Gloria's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. Yeah. I think she would. They stood together in the garden, watching Nora swing higher and higher, her laughter carrying on the breeze. The mansion that had once felt like a mausoleum now felt warm, alive, filled with the promise of healing. It wasn't a traditional love story. It wasn't simple or uncomplicated. 2 people bound together by grief and secrets and a woman they'd both loved who was gone too soon. But it was real, and it was theirs, and it was enough. 6 months later, Charles proposed to Gloria in that same garden, with Nora as their enthusiastic witness. The little girl who'd been silent for so long shouted, "Say yes, Aunt Gloria," loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. Gloria said yes. The wedding was small and private, attended by close friends and the family they'd chosen rather than the one they were born into. Margaret cried through the entire ceremony. Nora served as flower girl, chattering excitedly about the dresses and the cake and how she now had a mommy again, not to replace the one she'd lost but to love in a new way. As Charles kissed his bride under an arbor of white roses, Evelyn's favorites, he felt his late wife's presence like a blessing rather than a ghost. She'd brought them together, in a sense. Her death had led to the truth. Her sister had become his salvation. The mansion that had once symbolized wealth and isolation now represented something else entirely: redemption, family, and the extraordinary power of truth to heal even the deepest wounds. If you've stayed with this incredible journey of secrets, loss, and unexpected love, make sure to subscribe for more compelling stories that will keep you riveted from start to finish. Drop a comment below about what you think about Gloria and Charles's relationship. Was it destiny or something more? And don't forget to hit that like button if this story touched your heart the way it touched mine. Because sometimes the most beautiful love stories are born from the most complicated truths, and sometimes the people who save us are the ones we never saw coming.